Hey kids, did you know there are some super important events in history? If they did not happen, our lives would be completely different today. Can you imagine if COVID 19 didn't happen, we could fly to Hawaii or Disneyland in the holidays? If computers and phones weren't invented, people would probably read more books and LOL wouldn't exist. If your parents didn't meet each other, you would not be here. Well, have you ever wondered what would have happened if Jesus didn't rise from the dead? If Jesus didn't come alive again, then you're stuck in your sin, you're still guilty of every wrong thing you've ever done, there's no hope after you die, and people should feel really sorry for Christians because they believe a bunch of lies. That sounds really awful, doesn't it? Don't worry, kids. Jesus really did come back alive again. But how can we be sure that Jesus really came alive again? Firstly, he really did die. Roman soldiers at the cross saw him take his last breath. When they put a spear in his side, blood and water came out, which proved he really was dead. Secondly, he was really buried. They took Jesus' body down from the cross and wrapped it in fine cloth. Then they put the body in a tomb and rolled a huge stone in front of it. Thirdly, he really came alive again. When Jesus' friends came to the tomb, they could not find his body. They only found the linen cloths they wrapped him in when he died. God sent angels to tell them, Jesus isn't here because he is alive. Lastly, after that, Jesus appeared to many people, not just one, but more than 500. When he appeared to his friends, he showed them his scars. They got to see him and touch him and eat with him. They believed he really was alive again. Wow, kids, Jesus really died and was buried. He really did come alive again, and many, many people saw him. You can be absolutely sure Jesus is alive. And because Jesus is alive, now we can be forgiven for every wrong thing we do. Because Jesus is alive, we can be sure that people who die will come alive again. Because Jesus is alive, heaven is where we're headed after we die. Now, a lot of people celebrate Easter by eating lots of chocolate, hunting for eggs left by the Easter bunny, and going on holidays. But if you follow Jesus, then you'll know that these things are not the best thing about Easter. The best thing about Easter is Jesus is alive. And the best way to celebrate Easter is to ask Jesus to share his win with you. We don't like to think about it, but one day everyone will grow older and older and die. Death is one of the saddest things ever. But when Jesus came alive again, he proved that he won the fight against sin and death. Kids, Jesus is so kind. He knows we're not good enough or strong enough to beat sin and death on our own. And so, he invites us to share his win. Jesus says, everyone who has faith in me will live even if they die. Kids, why don't you ask Jesus to share his win with you today? If you put your faith in Jesus, then there are lots of other ways you can celebrate Jesus' win. You can read about it in the Bible, sing about it, thank Jesus for dying and rising for you, and tell your friends about this amazing news. But you know what? We don't have to wait for Easter once a year to celebrate Jesus' win. We can celebrate Jesus' win any day of the year. In fact, if you're 100% sure that Jesus is alive, then you can celebrate Easter every day of the year by choosing to live differently. Because Jesus is alive, you're not stuck in sin anymore. Jesus has won against sin for you, so don't live as if sin is still in charge, but live with Jesus in charge instead. And because Jesus is alive, you should get excited about moving into your real home. The home we have here on earth is not going to last forever. Jesus is preparing a wonderful home for all his friends in heaven. One day, he promises he will return and bring his friends with him to live forever in heaven. Kids, aren't you glad someone invented phones and computers, and that your mum and dad did meet, got married, and had you? But aren't you even more glad that Jesus really did come back alive again? That super important event that happened so long ago has completely changed our lives today. Because Jesus is alive, we're not stuck in sin. We can be forgiven for every wrong thing we've done. Death isn't the end of us, and we can be sure that Jesus will bring us to our forever home in heaven. Now that is worth celebrating this Easter.